succeed.
What takes guts is to put yourself on the line.
The urge to reach your full potential.
A leader makes the way.
These are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. Success Resources is the world's leading events promoter of business, personal development, and wealth creation programs. For over 30 years, we've helped over 10 million people across 30 countries unlock their full potential. From North America, to Europe, to Africa, to Asia, to Oceania, we are the key to your personal success. We open the door to the world's best speakers, such as Anthony Robbins, Sir Richard Branson, Robert Kiyosaki, and T. Harv Eker, to name a few. We have over 500 events a year and access to the greatest thinkers, achievers, and motivators of our time. We guide you to the success that lies in every one of us.
But you will not discover your greatness in your comfort zone.
We have never really truly reached our destination. There's always another level to strive for. Your best is yet to come. Success Resources, your learning partners.
Tonight, potential breakthroughs.
As he defends his plan to
Statistics 2, it was trading.
New guidance will keep
some of the confusion that has surrounded.
He then declared a global emergency.
The world does not feel the same anymore after the global lockdown. It's just the beginning. But today, it seems as though we walked into unfamiliar territory. Question is, are we mentally prepared for this? Or has COVID-19 locked down our minds? Traffic is back and public commutes are running again. Doors are slowly reopening, but it doesn't feel as welcoming anymore. People are more cautious now. Even after the global lockdown is lifted, physical distancing remains. Businesses are barely standing, and the economy is still in a downward spiral. No matter how hard we try, the global recession is real. But we learn to be resilient, and not to let these setbacks dampen our spirits. Take a look around you. Inspirations are brought to light. New talents have been discovered. And people have realized how important self-care is. In the end, we have come to realize that we determine our own reality. We create our own economy. And now we have the choice to make it happen.
Welcome home! I'm Sandra Bravo.
And I'm Alex Mondosian.
And on behalf of Success Resources Virtual Events, we would like to officially welcome you to the Leadership Squad Summit.
Okay, now if you've been here for the other summits, then you know that each summit has a theme. We've had the Business Summit, we've had the Marketing Summit, we've had the Mindset Summit, and we had the Investment Summit. This is the Leadership Summit. Now, what kind of leader are you? Do you lead from behind? And when your job is done, everyone says we did it ourselves? Or are you a command and control leader from the front? You are in for a treat for these 3 nights. Make sure you're here same time tomorrow And make sure you're here all 3 days, no matter when you're watching, because you will get an email. And make sure you look for the SRV in the box in the subject line. That way you know how to open it and you'll see when we begin. Anything else?
And once again, we're very fortunate, thanks to Success Resources Virtual, that we don't have to be lining up at the airport through security lines and jumping in planes and booking hotels, because Success Resources Virtual is bringing the top leaders, entrepreneurs, and speakers right into your family's living room so you can watch in the biggest screen with all of your family.
Well, tonight we have a speaker who I believe is a brother from another mother for me. He and I both attended T. Harv Eker's 60th birthday along with Sandra. And he and Harv go way back. We're not going to mention who that is yet. You'll find out in just a moment. Some of you already know. Right now, what's most important is grab your keyboard, and don't grab it like this, but start pounding on it and let us know your name and where you're hanging out from. Your name and where you're hanging out from and how many people are there. I hope not just one. I hope 5 or 3 or 2. We want to get as many people on as possible. So where are you from, your name, and how many people? Please type that in.
Yes, and remember to switch off all of your distractions. You want to focus. There's not such a thing as multitasking, like this we think that we can do it, but the truth is that you can't concentrate and take it all in. Now, again, if you're just listening, you will forget it. If you're watching us, you might be remembering, but if you're taking notes, engaging on the chat, implementing, that's when you really get to ingrain it into your cellular system. And I'm really excited because our guest speaker today, he's a mentor of mine, and one of the things that I love the most is that he goes all the way to the basics, which is personal leadership. You can't lead others, you can't lead your team, you can't lead your family if you're not leading yourself, and it all starts with personal leadership.
Yeah, and before we introduce them, look at all the people and where you're from. I want to see more 2s and 3s next time. There's a lot of 1s. Come on, we're in lockdown still. Many countries are still in lockdown. I know we are in the United States. Some states are opening up. But as we move out of lockdown, then I want you still to join us, because each theme is based on not only Success Resources, speakers, and expertise, but it is one part of your life, whether it's mindset, whether it's marketing or business or investment. That was a very good one. Leadership really ties all of that together. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the reason we've done this is there is no security line. There is no airfare. There is no hotel and lodging. Most importantly, if you watch with your family, you don't go to an event and then come back and the shovel of reality hits your forehead, because how could you possibly share a Success Resources event without experientially going there? We believe experience is a verb. So sure, it's a noun, but experience is a verb. And tonight's trainer will show you that experience is a verb, because you will experience him. So please continue to follow up with where you're from. And we're going to give a polling question in just a moment, so get ready. Remember, the guidelines are only respond to us and the speaker inside the chat when you're asked. Okay, no self-promotion, don't put websites, and don't talk about anything more than what we ask you to, because that way you won't be distracted, because there is always focus.
Keep the communication one way.
I did the Richard Tan elbow on that one, right?
Because
families that learn together succeed together. We almost forgot that. All right. So
with the polling question.
we're having fun because we've taken a week off and now we're very fresh and we're coming back. So this week is going to be a big one, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Let's start with the first polling question. You go ahead.
All right. So, are you an entrepreneur, or do you own your own business? Yes or no? Put it in fast. We're going to leave it for 20 seconds.
There we go.
All right. Nearly there.
Keep going. No, keep going. We've got 15 more seconds. Now, entrepreneur, owning your own business, is not always the same thing. Both can consider themselves unemployed at many stages of their life. I'm not employable. So I would say yes. What would you say? Yes?
Successfully unemployable.
Yeah. What would you say? You're an entrepreneur?
Yes.
I would too.
Yes.
I would too. So it's yeses for us. Okay, keep it going. Keep it going. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1, boom.
Oh.
All right, very interesting. You can see the results. So we kind of know who's on here.
Yes.
And so does our speaker.
Yes. So how about we go and bring him on, which is very exciting.
It is.
He's known him for a long time.
I have. Now, this next speaker has come from the same training I have, going all the way back to the great Buckminster Fuller. He's my root guru, my root lama, my root mentor, and I believe he is this speaker's as well. He's a great trainer. He's been training in many different areas such as sales and marketing, but leadership is really his wheelhouse.
Absolutely. And if you've ever been to any of Success Resources live events before the lockdown, you've probably known him. And what I love about him is that he leads by example. He is truly a role model, all the way from his personal leadership to his family, to his teams and his businesses. So we are very fortunate to be learning from him today, all the way in the comfort of your living room and without any cost, thanks to Success Resources Virtual.
And he also talks about that little voice inside. And you may have read that book. We've done a virtual book tour many years ago together, and that little voice is always there. And I used to think there were two people sitting in the seminar. One would walk out, become a multimillionaire. The other one would be obscurely going back into the same poor thinking. And I thought those were two people. And after I met our speaker, I realized that those are the same person, but two little voices. And one says, you can, and the other one says, you can't. So please help us welcome Blair Singer.
Woo! Welcome, Blair.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Your impersonation of the little voice is actually better than mine. Mine, I say, always sounds like my mother, but now it sounds like the two of you. So thank you for that gift. And those of you that said you're entrepreneurs, if you're an entrepreneur, type in yes one more time so I can see that. There you go. Just type in a Y. Okay, good, awesome. And if you're not, type in NY for not yet. Not yet, but I'm going there. Okay, good, awesome. Good. Now, the other thing I want to ask you too is, before we get started, is that if you're an entrepreneur or you're in business for yourself, if you've got a team of, let's say, 5, 6 or 7 people, type in yes or more. Yes or more. Good. All right. And if it's less, type in the word L for less. Okay, good. Excellent. Awesome. Good, because we're going to talk about it. Whether you got 0 or it's me, myself, and I as your team, we're going to talk about leadership today. I want to say, first of all, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sandra, for the amazing introduction. And thank you to Success Resources. My history with Success Resources goes back. I was talking, as many of you know, I'm Rich Dad Advisor to Robert Kiyosaki. And I was just literally, this is no joke, I was on the phone with him today. We're reminiscing that if it were not for Richard and Veronica, you wouldn't be looking at me right now. I wouldn't have 3 best-selling books. I would not be able to deliver this message to the world. Those talk about leadership. They lead from the front, from behind, in the middle, but amazing people. And so you can always rely on them as a source of great education and great leadership. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here. I mean, if you could be doing something else right now, other than being here, type in yes. Type in Y for yes, if you could be. Not that you would be, but you could be. Could you be doing something else? Oh, some of you are being very generous, very kind. Thank you. Okay, good. But you could. And I know that you have a lot of choices, but you chose to be here. Now, why is that significant? That's significant because if there's 8 billion people on the planet out there, not all 8 billion are on this call, and you are, and the reason you are is because there's something about you that's different than all the rest. Is whether you consider yourself to be one or not, you are a leader. You are a leader. And you've probably known that for most of your life. You may have a tendency to talk too much. Sometimes if you talk too much, type in too much in the chat box. If you've ever find yourself talking too much. Okay, good. Good, thank you. And why do you do that? Because the other thing I know about you is you probably love to teach. You love to help other people. It's just something that I know after all these over 30 years now, 30 years of working with people in over 15 countries around the world. If you haven't met me before, my name is Blair Singer. Some of you may know me as a Rich Dad advisor to Robert Kiyosaki, author of 3 best-selling books, 2 of which are Rich Dad advisor books on sales, team development, and personal development. The one that Alex and I worked together on, Little Voice Mastery, How to Win the War Between Your Ears. But more significantly than that, over the last 12 years, I've been teaching some of the greatest teachers, leaders, and facilitators in the world to be that, because I'm going to explain right now that leaders must be teachers. In the new world that we've moved into since the beginning of 2020, that's even more important than ever. So your ability to lead, whether it's your family, whether it's your business, whether it's your community, your friends, but mostly yourself, is critical. I believe that years from now, kids, school kids, and historians are going to look back on this 2020 group of people and say, well, what kind of leadership was there or wasn't there? And you have to ask yourself the same question. And so I'm honored to do this because what I know about all of you, that you're here because you have a bigger vision for yourself. If you have a bigger vision for yourself, type in yes in the chat box. Excellent. Type in yes. Good. Thank you. If you have a bigger vision for your family or your business, type in yes again. Good. See, now not everybody does that. Not everybody does that, but you do. So I'm going to do my best to cram as much information as I can in this short period of time together. We're together so that you can be more effective. So make sure you take a lot of notes. Take a lot of notes. We're going to take some questions at the end, but take a lot of notes because I want this evening or this session to be a session that you remember for the rest of your life as hopefully a moment that you pivoted and decided to stand up and really lead. Because like I said, years from now, they're going to look back and say, who did lead and how did they do? And I just hope that tonight helps you be that better leader. If you're okay with that, type in okay. Okay. All right, good. So I'm going to share a few things with you here. First thing is I'm going to share my screen with you to get us going. Because leaders see things that other people don't see. Leaders see things that other people don't see. So again, Saturday, if you guys can see that, if you can see my my screen, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, we're good. Awesome. All right. So here's the thing. As a leader, it's obvious that we are in or are in the process of going through a crisis. Now, what kind of a crisis? Well, there's lots of crises. There's a crisis, there's the COVID-19, that's the obvious crisis, but there's also an economic crisis. There's now a coming out of quarantine crisis. There is, like I say, there's a job crisis, an unemployment crisis. We're just at the beginning of probably of a series of waves that are going to continue to roll across us in crisis. But as a leader, the one thing to understand, and one of my teachers taught me this really well, that really if you look at what crisis is, and we know that the Chinese word for crisis means opportunity and danger to combined, but more importantly than that right now, crisis is simply this. It's change trying to happen. Change trying to happen. That's right. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is this, is that I mean that we always have opportunities in our lives to make changes. We always have opportunities to make those changes, right? I mean, for example, we have opportunities to make changes in our health, in our finances, in our business, in our relationships, but we don't do them. Why? Well, because we're comfortable right now. We don't need to yet. We know we should eat better, get a little more exercise, but I'll push that can down the road a little bit until one day you run up the stairs and your heart is pounding out of your chest, you're lightheaded, and you're going, the heck? You go see your doctor and it says, hey, dude, you know, you need to take care of yourself. Your blood pressure's too high. You're borderline diabetic. You need to do something. See, now you have a crisis, and now you have to change. You've had the opportunity to make the changes, but we didn't do it. Now, that's not just true for you, true for our family, true for my business, true for the country, true for the planet. If you understand what I'm saying. So now we have a crisis, but all it is crisis is change trying to take place. It's been trying for a long time. Now, the interesting thing about this is why, if you got to be spiritual, if you're not spiritual these days, you really ought to take a look, because the chances of all these things coming together at one time has got to tell you that the universe makes, as Dr. Buckminster Fuller said, as Alex said, makes no mistakes. Okay? So we have all these things trying to change right now that we have to change. So if I go back to this again, okay, is if you take a look at the things right now that concern most all of us, is we have crisis and we have to make changes in areas of our income and finance, okay? You know, our businesses and teams, families, our families, our health. Yeah, that's a big one, health. And of course, in your mindset, or what I call your little voice. So all the good news out of COVID-19 is what it's done is it's exposed a bunch of cracks in some of these areas. So if you've seen some cracks exposed in your own life, in your business, in your income, your health and mindset, type in cracks in the chat box and make it plural if there's more than one. All right, good. We all do. So the good news is that if this was the foundation of of our lives, all the COVID-19 did and all the quarantine did was expose the cracks that were already there. So as a leader, your job is to find the cracks and fix them. This is the perfect time to do it. That's why I acknowledge you guys for being on this call right now, because you're doing probably the most important thing of all, which is getting the education you need to remove a few of these cracks here. So at the minimum out of all this, we should all get healthier, stronger, smarter, and wealthier, which is the idea. While some people in a time of crisis are running for cover and looking for somebody to save them, you guys are here to learn. Now, here's the thing. Three major areas, okay? So the three major areas to be concerned about right now, put them like this, three major areas. One has to do with your income. So we were talking about, so these are the areas that we're going to focus on: income, your team or your group or yourself right here, and also your mindset. Okay, why? Because what we're looking for, maximize income, we're looking to still maintain our lifestyle and be able to reach and help a lot of people, which is what leaders do. So if you want maximize income, more reach, and maintain your lifestyle, type in me in the chat box right now. Type in me. Okay, now we're going to focus on this one right here today. And the reason we're going to do this is a couple of reasons we're going to do this. This is part one of this, and we're going to focus a little bit on this one too. This is part one, and part two I'm going to be doing another event here soon, and part two we're going to work on this one here. But right now we're working on this for a couple of reasons. As a leader, remember, a leader presumes that you're leading somebody or something else. And whenever I've worked over the years, I've worked with hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, companies, sales teams, help them increase sales 10, 20, 30, some cases 80%. And what I found is that when I start with income, without the piece we're covering here, it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. And I'll explain to you why in a moment. But the truth of it is that if there's a guy by the name of Chris Martenson wrote a book called The Crash Course. Brilliant guy. And I met him several years ago, and he said this: in time of crisis, your number one asset. Okay, here's what I want you to do. In the chat box, what do you think, from an investor's point of view, from a business owner's point of view, from a personal point of view, what's your number one asset? Type it in the chat box. Type what do you think it is. Number one asset. You've been to a few investing courses, right? So what is it? Gold? Silver? Real estate? No. What Chris Martenson says, in time of crisis particularly, your number one asset is your community. It's your community. No matter how tough times get, if you have a strong community, you probably had the experience, you can get through just about anything. You can get through just about anything. So why is it your number one asset? Well, as human beings, as we came together as tribes and we come together as groups, we've learned that there's safety in numbers. We've learned that there's no one way that one person has all the ideas in the world. We've learned that two heads are better than one. However, we also learned in school that that's called cheating. It's called cheating. So if I step on my soapbox for at least 20 seconds, I'm going to say that none of these crises, we would not have a crisis today if education had done its job the way it should have. We were taught to be good, do as you're told, make no mistakes, that cooperation was cheating. And so now when we have a crisis on our hands, it's people wandering around confused, looking for somebody to help them and to save them because we've lost the ability to think and create. Not you. Say, not me. I know you're all muted, but right now I want to be able to see you. Say, not me. Come on, do it. So not me. Okay, good. Not you, because you're a leader and you're here. And so what I'm going to say is that everything that I'm teaching you here today, it's your obligation to teach it to other members of your team, to members of your family, to work on it yourself, okay? These are critical elements because we've not been taught how to do this. That's why I believe that leadership is the word of the next decade. It is the word of the next decade. And leadership is not about false promises, misinformation, disconnecting. If you take a look at what's worked out of this quarantine stuff, what's worked? We found out that human beings crave connection. That even though we're separated, the number of Zoom calls and the number of interactions between people has gone up. We had a family dinner a couple of weeks ago, a holiday dinner. We did a family holiday dinner. We had 50 people on a virtual Zoom call, all having dinner together. I saw cousins and relatives I haven't seen in years. I would never see them because it's just impossible to get together. So we take a look at the things that have happened out of COVID-19 that are good. Take those with you as we emerge out of quarantine. Don't go back, because we always had social distancing, but it was mental, emotional, and psychological social distancing. You wouldn't smile at somebody. Don't talk to people. Don't talk to strangers. Making judgments of people. That went away for a while. But I noticed that now as people are starting to emerge, people wearing masks, people are not wearing masks, people want to take vaccines, not taking vaccines, and all of a sudden we begin to pull apart again. So as a leader, why am I telling you this? Because as a leader sees things that other people don't see. They're aware of a bigger picture that other people don't see. Okay, and so I'm showing you this because by your ability to see something bigger, your ability to lead, teach, inspire, and to help other people is going to go up dramatically. Okay, so just remember, your number one asset is your community. Number one asset is your community. What do you do with it? What do you do? Like, so for example, when the first week COVID-19 shut us all down, I call our team together. We have about 460-ish trainers around the world in 15 different countries. Immediately call them together. We were meeting once a month. Now we meet once a week. And in some cases, twice a week for some of those people, increasing the frequency, pulling your team together, keeping them close, reducing the anxiety, keeping the emotion low and the intelligence high. Okay. So again, if this is making sense to you so far, that your community is your number one asset, that you can rely on the person to your right and your left to go through just about any battle that you need to go through, type in "got it" in the chat box. Type in "got it" in the chat box. Got it. Type it in. A little lag. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, got it. Good. Got it. So it's your number one community, whether it's your family, whether it's your business, whether it's your friends, whether it's your community, your country, whatever it is, however big your game is, that's the deal, okay? All right. So how do you do this? How do you lead better? Well, I'm going to draw you another little flip chart here. It's probably the most important flip chart as a leader that you'll want to know about. And that's this one right here, is that if you want to take a look at your team, your community, your business, just take a look at this right here. This is a mug, okay, a coffee mug. And whatever you would put in here, like tea, coffee, or water, whatever, that's what we call content. So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, what's the content? Type in components of the content of a business. I'll give you a head start, like your product, or your service. What would be some other ones? Type them in. Okay, yeah, income, money, good, hopefully money. What else? Yeah, people, excellent. So you have people, that's your customers and your staff. Good, what else? Yeah, you have equipment, good systems, excellent. So all of this is what we call content. Now, the cup itself, or the environment, we give it a different name, and this is called the context. Context, or another word is the environment. And I've shown this cup to probably hundreds of thousands of leaders around the world for them to understand as a leader which component is most important for you as a leader, not as a leader now, working with a group, whether it's your kids, your family, or your business, which one of the two is most important to focus on? The content or the context? Type it in the chat box. Which one do you think? Which one do you think? Okay, some of you have been with me before, I can tell. Some of you already know the answer to this question. That's awesome. Okay, so what we know is that the most important piece as a leader is to focus on this. You cannot manage all these things in here all the time. You can't follow your kids around. You don't know what they're doing half the time. Look, I got a teenager just graduated high school virtually. Actually, I'm supposed to not say virtual, because virtual means it didn't happen. It's online. He graduated high school. I can't follow him around, nor do I want to. But hopefully I've set up the right context or environment that when he's out there, he's making the right decisions. Because what comprises this context? Well, your mission of your business, mission of you and your spouse, your own personal mission, we'll talk about this in a second, your rules, the rules that you have, your values and philosophies. These are the things that are important, because watch this. People say, well, yeah, but I got to focus on the content. Well, check this out. If this cup, remember we talked about cracks? If this whole thing is your business or your family, if this thing develops a crack in it, what happens to the content? Right? It's useless. It leaks out. Now, what's that called in a business when that happens, when that cup starts falling apart? Loss. Good. What else? Yeah, bankruptcy. What's it called in a marriage? Yeah, see, you all know the answer to that one. Interesting. But yeah, it's a divorce. Okay, so again, as a leader, I'm starting at the top and working down. I'm going to give you some very specific things to do, but I want you to be able to see bigger picture first. If this is making sense to you, type in MS. Type in MS. Makes sense. Awesome. All right, good. Okay, so let's start with how do you pull this off? How do you get this done? So I'm going to give you a little analogy here. I have been very blessed to go to Tanzania, Africa, since 2012, and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. It's the largest freestanding mountain in the world. And the reason that I do it is there's a lot of reasons I do it, which I'll explain in a second. But it's a great metaphor. So I'm going to use this as a metaphor, and we see how it applies to you, your family, your business, and all those. Because if you can understand these steps, I'm going to give you about, I think, 9 steps to be able to take any group, whether it's 2 people or you alone, because the rules apply to you just as much as they apply to a group of 2 or 20,000 people, however big your game is, okay? If you're going to lead. Okay, so the first thing we talked about is this vision, context, understanding it, seeing the crisis, seeing the meaning out of the crisis, which is it's allowing us an opportunity to get wealthier, healthier, better, stronger. So as we come out of the thing, we're ready. Rather than the people that are frozen, stuck waiting, for somebody to help them. And some people, that's all they can do. And that's unfortunate, but they need to have you around at least to cast some calm in the eye of the storm, right? So I'm going to share screen again, and I'm just going to use this as the analogy. Okay, there we go. All right, there she is. That's Mount Kilimanjaro. That's Kilimanjaro, roughly 5,980 meters above sea level. That's 19,341 feet. Largest freestanding mountain in the world and the largest mountain on the continent of Africa. Oxygen levels at the summit are roughly about 50% of what they are at sea level. And so it's not a dangerous climb, but what makes it hard and dangerous is not the climbing part, it's the altitude part. Very difficult. So it's an amazing, it has people go there for spiritual reasons, for personal reasons, lots of reasons. But let's just assume that this is our goal. Now, it could be a sales goal. It could be after COVID-19, during COVID-19, you realize you need to pivot your business. We've had to pivot ours. Mine was live events, live events promoted by other people. So I had to take that thing and turn it completely upside down, get my own marketing going, go online, all these things. So I had to change, the mission had to change. As a matter of fact, my customer changed as well. Formerly, I was helping people become great speakers, leaders, and trainers and facilitators. Still doing that, but the need in the market are for people, entrepreneurs that have no business skills, that are failing right, left, and center, and because they're out of jobs, may be the best time to get started, but it's the worst time if you're not educated. So we had to change all that around using real teachers like myself, my team, Rich Dad Advisors, people like that. So here's the goal. So whatever that goal is, that's the goal. Now, what's the challenge? So the challenge is this. This was our first mountain leadership team. This is the first team we took up there. I'd been there before, but I got so many lessons. I wanted to take people with me, clients, friends, So this band of people from about 9 countries right there, you might recognize a few of these people, 9 countries, most of them, all but one, I think nobody else, one had climbed a mountain before, nobody else had. These people have never, very few of them even slept in a tent. So the challenge was, okay, again, as a leader, okay, and by the way, our leaders, right here, this guy in the red, that's Kevin Chirilla, and over here is Kristen. They're our leaders. The job was to take this group of people up here to the summit of this mountain, most specifically right there. That's Uhuru Peak. That's the highest point on the mountain. Okay, so if you're watching this right now, take a deep breath. Okay, some people, when they look at it, they're like, oh my God, they stop breathing. One thing on Kilimanjaro, you must breathe. It's critical just in general, right? So the challenge was, how do you take ordinary people and get them up there, not just to get them up there, because that's only half the journey, the other, and get them back down safely and home safely. So that's the challenge. So you start with step number 1, what's the mission? What's the mission? Okay. So write that down. Number 1, mission. What are you doing? What is it you're setting out to do? COVID-19, a lot of people spending a lot of time chasing their tail. They know they need to stay in motion, but I got to do this, I got to do that. Oh my God, I'm behind. I don't know. I'm not good on social media yet. I don't even know how to do a Zoom call, get my camera plugged, all that stuff going on. You got to settle down. What's the mission? What's the one thing that I got to get focused on to give me direction and keep our team moving? So what's the mission? Okay. Second thing is, that's number 1. Number two, write this down. Number 2, once you have the mission or the goal in mind, what you're trying to get done, the next thing you got to ask, number 2, is why? Why do you want to do this? Out of all the things you could be doing right now, why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to improve your relationship at home? Why do you want to get your health back in order? Whatever the why is. And for some of you, climbing Kilimanjaro may be an easier task than the mission that you need to be doing for yourself. So I'm going to give you a little assignment at the end. See, this is part 1. Part 1 is about the team and being able to lead and understand the environment. Part 2 is about generating income. When we do that, we're going to do that a few days later, a few days going off. But none of that's going to stick until you got the groundwork for all this. That's my experience with working companies like Singapore Airlines, Morgan Stanley, IBM, L'Oreal brands, and hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs. Okay. So the question is why? So I had asked myself, why do I want to even go up here? I don't climb, I go to beaches. Sandra and Alex are in the Gold Coast, one of the most beautiful beaches on the planet in Australia. I would actually much prefer being there than going up here, but why would I go? So if you have an idea why I would go, type in the chat box. Why do you think I decided to go and take that team of people up on the top of that mountain? Just type it in. Just one word. What do you think? Why do you think I would do it? For achievement. Okay, good. See if I could do it. Good. What else? Come on, type it in. What do you think? Why would you do it? Type it in. Certainly, I see nobody's typing in for the view. I did not go up there for the view. That's true. Okay. Well, I'll just show you. The reason I did it is because of this right here. That's my oldest son, Ben. He was 16 years old at the time. I went there because it was something we wanted to do together, an experience. I'm not going to go in. I don't have time to go into the whole experience of how we got there, but we wanted to do community service. So we actually didn't even go there to climb. We went there to work in orphanages to help kids that really, some of which are homeless, have severe disabilities. Some of them have eczema pigmentosa, which is a disease that when sunlight hits the skin, it burns the skin off. And most of them don't even live beyond 16, 17 years old. So we went there to do something good. And Kilimanjaro happened to be a part of the deal. Okay. We actually didn't make it on the first trip. He got very, very sick on night 1 on the mountain. We had to turn back. And I didn't even think we'd ever go back. It wasn't until 6 months later when he said, Dad, I got to go back. I go, what? Back where? He goes, Kilimanjaro. I go, why? He goes, there's not a day I don't think about that mountain kicking my ass. He goes, I got to go back. Now, if you've got a teenager that says you're going to go back, type in yes or no. You going to go back? Yes or no? Type it in. Okay, good. Of course you are. Whether you want to or not, you're going to do it. So we went back and we summited together, and it was such an amazing experience that on the way down is when we created something called the Mountain Leadership Experience. That's how we got that team together, because I learned so many lessons on leadership, so many lessons about myself as a leader, changed me cellularly that I wanted to take other people back. So that's how we got to doing it. So that's the reason we climbed it. Actually, I climbed it for both my sons. As an example to the younger one, who's now, he's big, but he's even bigger than that now, just graduated high school, as an example of what can be done when you put your mind to something. The other reason why? Because of these kids. These are the albino kids. These are the ones, some of them are persecuted in Tanzania. These schools are set up to protect them. And most recently, we go back to we just built this orphanage for these kids. Yeah, there's actually 9 of them there. We have about 5 more. These are kids that have been abandoned and left on the streets, no parents, no nothing. And we built this orphanage to take care of them and to give them a safe, happy home where they can get educated and be nourished and free of disease. And that's why I go back. Okay, that's why I do it. So you have to ask yourself, whatever it is you're going to take on, whatever crack that you're going to heal, whatever piece that you're going to work on to get better, why? And you better have a compelling reason why, because times are tough. And I'm not here to tell you times are going to get better either. They will change. I think the economic crisis that lies in the shadows is monumental compared to the COVID-19 itself. So the question is, you got to have a good reason why every day to get up, a good reason why to take on whatever mission that you want to take on. Okay? So that's why I go. Why do you do what you want to do? A leader gives meaning sometimes to the meaningless. Why is COVID-19 happening? Why am I quarantined? Well, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be something here for me to learn. And if there's something for me to learn, then how do I take my team and get them to learn it too, so we all learn together? Okay? So remember that leaders are teachers. And as a teacher, your job, whether it's your kids, let me give you an example. My 18-year-old who just graduated high school, he goes, why does this stuff always happen to me? This was even before COVID-19 because he had some injuries playing football. Why does this always happen to me? I go, I looked at him and he was very distraught. I go, first of all, it doesn't always happen to you. And what makes you think you're special? He goes, what do you mean? I go, everybody has problems. Everybody gets setbacks. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets injured. That's what happens. The question is, what lesson are you learning? And so it's my job as a leader to help him see the meaning behind it, even if sometimes I'm questioning why. But as a leader, it's our responsibility to do that. If that makes sense, type in lessons, because it's about pulling the lessons from your business, from your life, from what's going on around you, okay? Type in lessons. All right, good, awesome. So if we're to take a look at this list again, so what do we got so far? We've got, first piece here is mission. What's the mission? Step 2, why? Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it? So I'm going to give you a little assignment for next time, as a matter of fact. I want you, it's multifaceted. Write this down. I want you to write down, remember we talked about cracks? I want you to write down over the next several days, I want you to write down what cracks were exposed by quarantine and COVID-19 that you need to work on, and pick 1 or 2 that you're either working on or you need to get fixed, and at least 10 reasons why you want to do it, okay? Next thing, the next piece of this is to, before you even pull your team together, by the way, if you guys are starting, or if you're a startup, what are your values? What are the values that you hold near and dear to you? What's important to you? Is integrity important? Is health important? Is obviously education's important? That's one, or you wouldn't be here. Is honesty important? Is love important? Family, whatever your core values are, be clear on those. And from those values, you create rules. Rules. Like for me, team in business, team is very important. So we have, and from the rules we teach at our sales and leadership program, we teach something called a code of honor. Code of honor. Code of honor. The code of honor is a set of rules. If we come back to this over here, remember this right here? This is probably this and this are probably the single most important things if you're going to be a great parent, if you're going to be a great business owner, if you are going to direct yourself through the chaos of misinformation and all the other garbage going on out there, you need to be clear on your own personal rules and be clear on your mission, okay? And the same thing with your teams, okay, and your community. So the code of honor, think of it like 10 commandments. The 10 commandments have been around for several thousand years. It's the basis of our law. Every religion has a set of rules. Every great team, every great athletic team, every great business has their own set of rules that govern who they are and how they operate internally as a team. So for example, we have rules in our business: never abandon a teammate in need. Why? Because teamwork is important. We have another rule that says everybody on the team must sell. Everybody must sell. Why? Because sales and income is also a core value in our business to make that happen. So it doesn't matter if you're a customer service person, an accountant, a trainer, doesn't make any difference. Even in my trucking business, if you were a truck driver, everybody had to sell. Didn't matter if you didn't know how, we teach you, but you had to have that. So it's the core set of rules that govern how we operate. My wife and I have a code of honor between us. We have rules like never, if we have an upset that goes on between the two of us, which happens, we've been married over 33 years, okay? If we ever have an upset that goes on for more than a day, or actually more than an hour or two, we call a timeout and we seek outside coaching. Why? Because if I have an upset with you or you have an upset with me that goes on longer than that, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with my little voice, what's going on inside, okay? Remember what I said back here? I said this is your number one asset, is your community, your team, your group, and yourself. Well, your mindset or your little voice, the little voice right here, is either an asset or a gigantic liability. If it's ever been a liability to you, telling you can't do it, you're not smart enough, blah, blah, all that other stuff, put the letter L in for liability. LL, little voice liability, okay? Type it in. All right, good, awesome. So do you see how before we start working on this, we got to get this together, and you got to have a team together, because it's not just about you selling, it's about getting your team to sell for you and with you, okay? I have to come back to that later, okay? All right, but you got to have rules. You got to have rules. Now, once you have these rules in place, by the way, that's your other assignment. For next time, I want you to sit down, make a list of your values, and I want you to create a little code of honor for yourself. What are your rules? Like my rules, because health is one of my rules, is that I work out a minimum of 5 days a week, and I don't put stupid, unhealthy things in my body, and I eat well, and I drink 4 liters of water a day. Okay, so these are rules that I have for myself. Like I said, my wife and I have rules. So I want you to make a little code of honor for yourself, with you and your spouse or your primary relationship, and at least begin on your business if you've got a business. Okay, so this is critical, because when in a crisis, remember, emotion goes up. And when your emotion goes up, your intelligence goes down. That's why you need to have rules that hold you in place so your emotion doesn't take over, if that makes sense. Okay, does that make sense? Type in MS. All right, awesome. Step number 5. Is this helpful, by the way? If this is helpful, type in yes. All right, awesome. Good. Okay, good. Okay, good. Now, at this point, now, watch this. Somebody said, well, I can't build a team. I have no money. I'm just starting. How would I even do that? I haven't earned the right, all this stuff. Look, if you got a compelling mission, let's try this color. If you've got a compelling mission and a reason why and a strong set of rules, okay, at this point, that's all you need. Now you can recruit. That's how we did Kilimanjaro. We were clear on the rules, on the mission, and now we recruit. Why? Because the promise is not money. The promise of the mission and of the values and the rules and the way you have to conduct yourself is there's no guarantee of money, but the guarantee is you will become the best version of yourself. You can become the best version of yourself, and you end up with the right people on the right team for the right reasons, doing the right things. You don't end up with people with alternative agendas. Now, if you've already got a team, never too late, sit down and create this. We talk about that another time, another place. But now you can recruit a team. You recruit a team. You train them. Now, what do you train? How do you train them? Okay, well, you train them in both the technical development side of things plus personal development, how to manage their little voices. You teach them on whatever skills they need, like how to sell. The other way you train is you find great mentors to help train you, mentors and teachers that will train you. You know, for me, one of my great mentors is Dr. Buckminster Fuller. He's no longer alive, but his philosophy and inspiration helps me daily. I have a quote on the wall. It says, "The more people I serve, the more effective I become. The more people I serve, the more effective I become." And it just drills in my head. I think of people like John Fitzgerald Kennedy. One of our programs, we study him a little bit, and he has a very famous speech about going to the moon. He says, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. And so I watch that over and over and over again because it gives me the inspiration that the reason to climb Kilimanjaro is to get better. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Most people are looking for the easy way out. If you're building a team, you tell them this is not the easy way out, but you will become the person you've always wanted to become. Now you need to be good on that promise. You need to be good on that promise, and we teach you how to do that as well, okay? You train. You become what I call a holistic learning unit. Alan Walter, one of my teachers. Holistic learning unit. Yeah, your team, your family becomes a holistic learning unit. What does that mean? That means that we look at the bigger picture. If you were to study finance, it's not just about how to balance your checkbook. It'd be like playing Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game. You play the game so you understand financial statements, you understand cash flow, so you understand the bigger picture of personal finance. Right now, our trainers are teaching people cash flow games, thousands and thousands of people learning cash flow because they realize that one of the cracks was personal finance. And now's the time. So the family, as Alex and Sandra said, families that study together grow together. So become a holistic learning unit and pick the things that you want to learn together. We do this with we do this with all of our teams like twice a week. Okay. At that point, you then begin to execute. And Kilimanjaro is taking one step at a time, not trying to do multiple steps at a time. Not that, just one step, one direction at a time. Okay. So I can just share something with you here, just so you can see this. Share one more time. There we go. There we go. Good. Okay. So with that in mind, with these steps, you then, and this is our leaders, these were our leaders, Kevin and Kristen, our guides up the mountain. You assemble a team. This is an amazing team. These guys, these porters that carry all of our gear, our food, cook our food, all of that. Amazing guys, that stronger than any people I've ever met in my life. And they take us into their country and they take care of us and keep us safe on the mountain. Set up tables and chairs and cook tents and meal tents and all of those things. So you put your team together. And the final thing that you're going to teach you about being a leader is that it's never about the summit. Every single mountain climber will tell you the same thing, that it's never about the summit. The summit is the least important part. Actually, it becomes anticlimactic. You know, we get up in the morning. You know, that it's, you've heard it said before. We get up in the morning before the sun rises in pitch black to start ascending to the summit on summit day. At 3 a.m. in the morning. And what happens is you're treated to some of the most amazing sights on the planet. The ability to look, and this is not a professional camera either, the ability to see yourself as part of the universe, to be connected to a team at a spiritual level, to be able to be there for each other, to help each other, to support each other when somebody's not feeling so good and you're there for them and they're there for you. These are the things that are priceless about being a leader and being on a team. Being able to see the curve of the earth and to understand that horizon out there, the sun is not rising, that horizon is dropping, and you can actually almost feel the earth rotating under your feet. So it's not about the summit. It's about the amazing lessons that you learn. But the lessons are only there if you as the leader become a teacher. You as the leader to be able to stop the clock for a second and get yourself and others to understand the lessons that are happening right in front of you. You do that, you'll reach the top, or you'll reach whatever summit that you reach. But whether you twist an ankle and don't even get there, it'll still be a win for you because of all the wins that you've had along the way. This was our first mountain leadership team. So again, it's not about the summit. Here's Ben and I. It's about doing things together. The thing that COVID-19 taught us is the power of our intimacy, the power of our connection, the power of what happens when people come together and take care of each other. Don't leave that behind as you come out of quarantine. Don't let it happen. You'll see it happen in the grocery stores. You'll see it happen on the street. Be the leader that preserves the great lessons that we've been taught so far. Because at the end of the day, it's your legacy. That's Ben. Long after I'm gone, he'll remember that summit, those summits that we did together. And he'll pass those lessons on to others, just like your kids will pass on stuff to their kids. So while it's Kilimanjaro is just a mountain, COVID-19 is just a pandemic. I say just. The economy is going into shambles. But the question then becomes for all of you as a leader, what are the lessons that we're learning? What are the lessons that we encompass? If this is making sense, type in MS, making sense. Making sense. Okay, good. Awesome. So like I said to you, I said that the world needs great leaders right now. But I also mentioned to you that leadership is multifaceted. Leadership is definitely multifaceted. So I go back here again and share this. I said that your group, your team, and yourself is your number one asset. It's the source of resources, of ideas, of energy. One of the things that has happened through the quarantine is lots of overwhelm, lots of depression, people, emotional mood swings. If you had any emotional mood swings through this quarantine, type in MS for mood swings. Okay, if you didn't, I don't know. I just like you. Maybe you're under the influence of a lot of alcohol or drugs. I don't know, but I know that I have. Everybody has. Okay, so your team gives you strength. Your community gives you strength. The power of Zoom is we're all together, so we have the ability to keep each other encouraged. We don't have to say anything, just being in proximity. Okay, so remember what I said. I said this is your number one asset, but your number one. Oops. If that's your number one asset, as an entrepreneur, your number one skill, not the same, your number one skill is your ability to generate income and to be able to sell, because sales equals income. If you can't generate income, you got a big time problem, because no income, no business, no fun, right? And a lot of people, that's why Robert and I both believe that as an entrepreneur is probably your these days going forward, you as an entrepreneur is probably your best path to financial independence and financial freedom, to be the ability to maintain the lifestyle that you want, the income that you want, and be able to reach and touch a lot of people. These are still the priorities. If you buy into these priorities, type in yes in the chat box if this is of interest to you. The challenge, however, is there's a lot of people with $1 million ideas, but they don't make $1 million, and they can't keep their teams very well because they don't know how to sell. Because sales is not just generating income, sales is recruiting that team we just talked about. Why would I want to come work for you? What's the benefit to me to come do that? So if you want to build a community, now that you understand it, you've got to be able to sell, which is part two of part two of that. At the same time of all this stuff, the other problem is, like I said, is this bad boy right here. Is it an asset or is it a liability? That's up to you. Okay, so that's why I maintain that right now. Number one asset is your team and your group. Your number one skill is your ability to sell and generate income, which is what we're going to cover next time. How many people would like to come next time? Type in NS for next time. Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah. Now, why do we do it in this order? We do it in this order because if you don't understand context, if you don't have a code of honor for yourself, if you're not clear on your mission, you'll be like a dog chasing its tail out there. Okay? You need to have these pieces in place. And I'm here to tell you something, and a part of your little voice may not like this. Business is a team sport. A family is a team sport. Life is a team sport. It is not done on your own. It is not done by being the best that you can be and by being Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. That's what's hurting you right now. Why do you feel that way? Because that's what you were taught in school. That's the little voice stuff that we have to work on. Okay? So that's why we created part two of this. We're going to be doing a webinar in a few days. Part two of this to get the other pieces of that little voice out of the way and teach you the abilities to be able to generate a lot of income in a very short period of time, regardless of what the economy is doing. If you think that would be helpful, type yes in the chat box. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so how to generate income really quickly. How to recruit people, how to actually more detail on how to recruit some people that will sell for you. but most importantly, how to get the little voice issue out of your head that says, I can't sell, or what if they don't like me? And all these other things that kill your dreams. I will tell you this, is that your little voice is probably the #1 killer of your dreams. If you've ever been disappointed with your dreams, it's not all the time, but a lot of it is because your little voice, I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I'm confused. I've screwed up before. I'm too old, too young, whatever that is. So part 2 is to understand that listen closely and write this down. The toughest sale of all. So sales is #1. The toughest sale of all is what? Type in what the toughest sale of all is in the chat box. Or let me put it this way. Who is the toughest sale? Yeah. Right. Good. Yes. Right. Me, you, or you, right? The toughest sale of all is you. You selling you to you. So until we get that set, and so until we get that set up, the income is not going to flow. So now we got the context, the mission, how to put the team together, how to set the environment for you to do it. Now we can teach you how to sell and how to do it in a way that's authentic to you. It's not high pressure to, and that's why we have to have a part 2 to this whole thing. Look, my commitment to this is that right now the world is in crisis. It's in an emergency. And what Dr. Fuller once said, he said, human beings seem to always wait until the very last minute to fix things. Think about it when you were in school. When did you study for your finals, right? You studied for your finals the night before. Well, some of you didn't, I did. And it didn't do me any good, but we wait till the last minute. And what he says that, these were his words, always and only in the nick of time. In the nick of time, people emerge through emergency. It's the same word. Emerge, emergency. Emerge through emergency. So we're in emergency right now. And so I'm grateful to Success Resources and Alex and Sandra for making this platform available to so many people so we can get this information out to you. It's more important that you get this and you be a better leader because other people are affected by you. It's like dropping a stone. You getting one piece of information tonight and you teach it to a couple other people, the ripple effect of that could be the difference in your family, your community, could be the difference in your life if you choose to step into it, which you did, which you have, okay? Which you have, okay? The other question, and yeah, what I'm gonna say, I got one more slide, I'm gonna save it for later, okay? So that program is coming up in a few days. It will be coming up in a few days. We're going to work on sales over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. When I work with clients and we work on a concentrated sales program, that's about a $5,000 to $6,000 session for an hour and a half or 2 hours, which is what we're going to be spending together to go through that, give you the strategies, the little voice strategies and the technical strategies to do that quickly. But here's the deal. And like I said, the reason we're doing this because it's needed. And you guys are the ones that are going to teach it. You guys are the ones that are going to do it. And so we've decided not to charge $5,000 or $6,000 or not charge even $500. What we're going to do, and again, by the way, it's only for people. This offer is only for people to take advantage now. And I'm not sure, I already forgot the name of the link where you go to. So if somebody could help me with that. There we go, successresourcesvirtual.com. Okay, so here's the deal. Say it again, Sandra.
successresourcesvirtual.com/go.
Go and go there. And that next session, number 2, where you're going to learn how to generate a lot of income really quickly, Success Resources, and we decided totally free. Totally free. Okay, totally free for you, but you got to do it, but you got to register by when?
Now.
Right now. Okay, so we just need to get this done within the time frame of this while this webinar is up. So go get yourself registered. Do it right now. Click on the link. If it's in the chat box, click on the link and go there now. And I'm just going to give you, again, if you got some value out of this, type in yes. Type in yes so far. So this is just about setting the context. So you imagine we're going to teach you how to make a lot of money in a very short period of time now, and to get your team to sell it for you, to do it for you. Because now, think about this, you do that, you're building an asset. If you're doing it, you're on your own. So let me share you with you one last screen here. Then we're going to take some questions, I think. One last share here. Okay. All right. So, because here's the deal. It's not just about you being able to do that. I'm going to show you two images of leadership right here. Image number one is this person. Wonder Woman. She's strong, man. She flies through the battlefield, bullets flying all around her. She's strong. She's inspirational in the fact that people go, woohoo, look at that. But she's out there on her own. The only reason that team followed her out there is because she guilted them into it. But she's strong. So she's a leader. But here's another leader. Let me show you another one. Princess Leia, Star Wars. So the question you got to ask yourself as a leader, as a business owner, particularly, which leader are you? This or this? I'm going to maintain sometimes you need to be both, but which one is more feared by the enemy? I'm going to say this one right here. The entire empire couldn't crush her rebellion, okay? She had a movement. She created a movement. She created a group of people across the galaxy that even if she was gone, would still be able to fulfill the mission. So I know that a lot of you out there as solopreneurs, we all start here, and I did too, and I'm still there many times. But to keep in mind, what we're going to talk about next time is not just about you being a warrior, but how you inspire the rest of your team to sell as well. Now you're creating an asset. Okay. So again, go to the link now. Get yourself, again, it's free for those of you that are on this call. We'll do a deep dive there.
All right, Blair.
Wow.
It reminds me, I've seen a lot of part one presentations that lead to a part two. Many of them are like treasure maps that lead to a treasure chest full of gold, which this was, but this was a treasure map that leads to a treasure chest full of other treasure maps. And that next one is going to be off the charts. I can't wait for that. I'm glad. And the dates, everything are there. So remember, it's successresources.com/go. One more time.
successresources.com/go. Our moderators are typing it on the chat as well. If you are visual like me, here you have it. If you're auditory, we said it plenty of times. And imagine if this is what we got from Blair on an introductory session. Now imagine how much more. Like I'm just blown away of the amount of value. There was so many golden nuggets on these.
Well, I look at this as our mutual buddy Harv calls it. This is an inner game presentation, and the outer game is where the rubber meets the road. So I can't wait for the how and how that works and who has made that happen. I do have some giveaways. Like we give away $10 at a time. I'll be giving away probably over $1,000 by the time we're done. We'll see. Maybe not that much, but I give away at least $50. And so this is $10 to the person who can answer this question. And if you're paying attention, then you know that Blair said that someone very bright had made mention of this, and he showed it on the whiteboard. And he said, there's one thing that we need during crisis more than anything else. It starts with a C. One thing we need more than anything else during a crisis. And it's not always a best friend, but what is it? He said it. There's no replay to this.
Who's the winner? The first person that types it in?
No, Blair, what day of the week, what day of the month is your birthday?
20th.
20th. We're going to do it to the 20th person who got it right. All right.
All right. The moderators are going to go through
The moderators will go
20th
through.
person that entered the right answer.
That's right. And we will let you know, and we will let you know about the winners later on. All right. So what about the next one?
Okay, what does COH stand for? If you're familiar with Blair, you should know it like without even thinking about it. But if you are not, then just by listening, it's so important in your life, with your spouse, with yourself, with your team. What does COH stand for? And we're gonna do.
And if you don't understand the Mexican Australian accent, H really means H in English. So just make sure it's COH or H. Right? Okay.
Whatever.
It's Spanish. All right. So what does it stand for? And which one do you want to do?
I'm going to do number 19.
19. Okay. Excellent. I wonder why.
That's the day of my birth.
Okay. Good. So number 19, moderators will watch. Now, this one, I'm going to go for number 9 because that's the day of my birthday. March 9, by the way. I'm a good receiver. Remember that. You got about a year.
Too far away. Mine is closer.
I know. It's coming. So here it goes. And then we're going to go to Q&A. Who, and the answer is not my mother, Carol Mondosian, okay? Who, and the answer is not Sandra Bravo either. It's not Blair. Who is the toughest sale of all? Who is the toughest sale of all? Let me see it. As that shovel of reality hits the forehead, who is the toughest sale of all? Who is willing to do more for other people than they are for themselves?
Good one.
Especially your parents. You
Right?
know what that means.
Listen, people, you constipate the system, and part 2 will have no meaning. You have to be able to circulate. I know you're a good giver. I can already tell you're a good giver, but are you a good receiver? People are crappy receivers. And talk about crap. You constipate the system if you're not giving and receiving. Many people can't even say, you're welcome. Hey, thank you. You're welcome. That's it. What do they say? It's nothing. It's nothing. Especially if you're born Armenian, Italian, or Jewish, that comes up. Or Mexican. It's nothing. Nothing. Just say you're welcome and end it. Put a bow on the package. So get that circulatory muscle working. Without circulating money, what happens? We have a recession. Without circulating the workforce, what do we have? Lockdown. We're in lockdown right now. We're constipated. We got to go back out, right? It's nature. If you
natural flow of life.
It's flow. Nothing happens until something moves. So that second webinar is very important. We know with absolute certainty you come to webinars because you're here. And each one we're getting more and more and more. We got thousands today. Or tonight, wherever you are. I mean, in Europe it's in the morning.
Yeah.
And then and Asia and New Zealand and Australia, it's late in the afternoon or early.
And we have some
evening.
committed Mexicans here. They get up at 3 in the morning.
I know.
1 in the morning to watch it.
They must be related.
That's
So
right.
successresourcesvirtual.com/go. And we'll go straight into Q&A. So Blair?
It would normally cost thousands of dollars to come and learn from Blair, who is an amazing leader. So how lucky that you get to do it thanks to Success Resources Virtual. You pay nothing.
And we get to save money too by eavesdropping, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna go over the questions, Blair, but I wanna ask you, what is your favorite part of part number 2 that you can just tease us with? Lift the skirt just a little bit. What's your favorite part?
Well, my favorite part is the realization that being able to generate income is not as difficult as people think it is. My favorite part is to understand that you don't have the best way to sell, the best way to recruit is to be 100% yourself. And I think what happens is the little voice is like, well, I gotta do it this way. I gotta do it that way. I gotta be like Blair. I gotta be like Alex. I gotta be like Sandra. And all that other stuff that gets in the way. And I think that the best, when people begin to, and I'll explain how that works, but when you begin to understand that, then it opens up a whole floodgate of income.
And you know what? I think it happens all the time. How many times you listen to someone speak and everything sounds wonderful and you have that little feeling of, I don't know, there's something that doesn't resonate, and that's because that person is lacking the authenticity. And so when you're yourself, that authenticity feels in the form of energy and everything that you just go, oh, I don't know why, but I totally resonate with that person. And it's because there's no layers in between. It's the authenticity of being you.
And if you spot it, you got it. So remember, the comparison game there's only one thing worse than that, and that's the blame game. And so I don't know if these issues will come up in part two, but this is a very, very transparent and authentic way of understanding who you are, because we believe you're not as good as you think you are. You are better. All right, let's go for the questions for Blair.
There are some great questions today.
Yeah. So how do I build a team if I have no money just starting and no one knows me? There's the holy trinity of no, no, and no. How do I build a team if I have no money?
Right.
I haven't started or just starting and no one knows me. So what do you say to that?
Great question.
Well, I think we actually covered some of that. We ended to cover that. Is that first of all, to get a dream team, you can never afford a dream. If you're trying to pay for them, they're very expensive. I would tell you that we've got 500, almost 500 people around the world, and the services that we're all on the same mission. We're to create the best teachers, leaders in the world. And if I added up the amount of service that they provide to me, it would be millions and millions of dollars. There's no way I could ever afford it. But because we're part of a team on a similar mission, what happens, I don't need to have that money. What I do need to do is I need to be able to lead. I need to be able to offer them the promise of them getting better. Now, it's counterintuitive. And the counterintuitiveness doesn't mean I got to make life easy for them. As a matter of fact, that sometimes the harder I make it, they understand that that's going to make them better. So so people are in there for those reasons. And I think the second thing is you got to know how to sell. That's the deal. I mean, because selling is not just selling a product or service. It's selling somebody else on the question, why should I work with you? Why would I be part of your team? And that's a sales pitch. And, and it's very doable. But if you understand what we were talking about here, we'll put the pieces together next time so they can do that.
It was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said that's awesome. I was muted, but selling doesn't even require words sometimes. Just watch a dog. Best sales entities in the world, much better than cats. Cats play hard to get. I'm not very good on the sales for the cats, but I'm a dog person.
I don't get it either. I'm with you on that one. I don't get it.
That's the hard to get. That's the Tiffany sale. They're just so precious. Oh, okay. Well, maybe you can feed them if you want. Okay.
Right.
But they do poop in by command, in a certain place. So I guess you can give that to them. They're very independent. How about question number two?
Try my 13-year-old daughter. She'll ask by a text message. No, honey, not today. She'll try with a phone call. No, honey, not today. She'll try with a video. No, honey, not today. She'll try with an audio message. Okay, whatever. They won't give up.
That's like multi-channel closing.
Yeah. I do have a great question because I love Blair's code of honor. And, you mentioned something so cool about in relationships when it goes on for longer than a certain time. It has nothing to do with the other person or the situation. It has to do with you. You got to go and work on yourself.
That's right.
And so, Blair, I would love some examples of rules for yourself as part of your code of honor for yourself, because you're so right. When emotion goes up, intelligence goes out, and now you're just going on default. So if you have those rules to keep you safe in place, so you don't have to think what to do when you're in that emotional state. Yeah,
and that's a great question. And I can tell you that without a code of honor, I would not be here. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm very enthusiastic about things. I'm very emotive. And so my emotion can go up very quickly. You understand that one? Being from Mexico? Yeah, okay, great. So emotion goes up very quickly. My intelligence goes down. And if I didn't have a set of rules for myself, I've made some catastrophically bad decisions in my life. One of which was on Kilimanjaro. When we were up there that first time with my son, he got so sick. He was just vomiting uncontrollably. It was something he ate or whatever. And he had to go back down. Now, the choice was, do I go with him and abandon the climb, or we could send him down with a porter. They would take him to a clinic and I could finish the climb and hopefully he'd be well and we would meet at the end 6 or 7 days later. But the thought of sending my son down there by himself was disturbing. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Now, if there's any mothers listening right now, I know you're saying this guy is an imbecile. There is no decision right now. Why would you abandon your kid, right? But I'm just telling you the truth. And so for me, I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And then my little voice, you get that, you'll excuse my language. My little voice goes, you wrote a book about this, you asshole. You wrote a book about this, you asshole. Code of honor. Oh yeah. Start together, finish together. Never abandon a teammate in need. Okay, got it. I'll take him. And it was the best decision of my life as a father. I learned how to be a father. I didn't learn anything about climbing. I learned about being a father. So it's the code of honor that forces you to be your best, and particularly in times of crisis.
Well, you know, Blair, back in the 1980s, I was still living, and I think you were a little baby. And Blair, I know that we're close to age, but there was a code of honor that Johnson & Johnson had after a few people died because some unscrupulous human put cyanide in the aspirin caplets in Chicago.
I remember that.
And their code of honor was to keep the family safe and to support the doctors. And it was they called it the credo. And so they pulled over $110 million worth of bottles off the shelves. And that was their lockdown. Now, just so everyone understands, we're in lockdown now. Johnson & Johnson came back 6 months later, stronger than ever, bounced back, and is the #1 analgesic in the entire world right now because of that code of honor, which they call the credo. So it's a North Star. It's a North Star in the Northern Hemisphere. We call it the Southern Cross here in Australia and New Zealand. Next question. I'm young and I'm starting, and no one will listen to me. There's a nice projection. What would you say to that?
Well, first of all, that's a totally a little voice issue, so you got to stop saying it. Okay, so just stop saying nobody listens to you, because right now I'm listening to you because we're answering your question. Okay, so first of all, that's a false statement. Second of all, if nobody listens, if you perceive I'm too young, that's all little voice stuff. So first thing is to understand it's a little voice, so you can step outside and go, oh, that's my little voice right there. Okay, number one. Number two, learn how to sell. Okay, because if nobody's listening to you, it's because you don't have a very compelling presentation and you're a little afraid of talking to people. So we're going to cover that next time. Okay, but the other thing is that I have found that if you're just beginning, then you need to understand building a team of advisors might be the first team that you actually build. Advisors are people that have experience, people that do believe in you, that can give you some advice, to tell you how to show you the way and how to do things like that. So nobody listens to you? Fine. Find somebody that can teach you how to come up to speed quicker, have mentors and coaches that will support you. And the truth is people do listen to you. Just how compelling is your mission and how compelling and how much enthusiasm do you have about that? Let me just say that. Enthusiasm. If there's one thing that you take into sales is your energy. We say two people come together in a selling situation, person with the highest energy wins. So if you're feeling nervous or you don't, just crank the energy up. Even if you don't feel it, you got to sometimes manufacture enthusiasm and energy. And if for no other reason, you'll be entertaining and people will listen to you. Okay. So there's a lot of ways to do it.
I love it. And I think also when you raise your energy, it's magnetic. People want to, be around you because you're helping them lift their own vibration of energy. So
That's right.
Nice. We have another good question here. We have rules, but what do you do when people don't obey them or they argue about them?
Okay, so there's two levels of this. First of all, who are the people? If it's your kids, it's one strategy, I think. If it's your team, it's another strategy. And if it's you, it's another strategy. But I think that the first thing about every code of honor is one of the rules in the code of honor is you got to be willing to be called and to call other people on it, to be called out. Okay, so and it doesn't mean embarrassing people. It doesn't mean taking them out at the knees, but you got to create permission in your team, particularly in your business, that if somebody breaks the rule, let's say we have a rule that says be on time, and say I'm late. I show up 5 minutes late for a meeting, okay? So typically nothing happens. They just join in but what happens is psychologically everybody's going, I thought we had a rule about being on time. Blair's late and nobody said anything. And then they don't take the rules seriously. So what do? You can say, excuse me, Blair, and again, if it's a first time offense, you may want to do it after the meeting. If it's a repeated offense, you say, hey, look, before we go any further, Blair, we got these rules that we all agreed to. You agreed to be on time. This is like the third time. What do we got to do to support you to be on time? Now, usually that's enough to get somebody's attention if you haven't gotten it privately before. But you've got to be willing, there's a whole strategy behind it, but you got to be willing to call it out and be willing to let a teammate call you on something, which is sometimes harder because our egos get involved and all that stuff. So that's why little voice mastery and all these things work together, but you got to be willing to call it.
Okay, what if, there's a couple questions in this same spirit of the direction I'm going to ask is, I have no desire to lead a team or even a big team. I just want to make money and live a good life. What would you say to that person or persons?
Well, I would say that the rules of leadership, no matter how big your community is, are the same. Those 9 steps that we talked about apply to you as an individual, to you as a family, whether you have 2 people or 22,000 people. They are the tried and true steps of building anything of value if you've got a mission. Now, I'm just going to say to that person that I would have you check in your little voice why you don't want to have a team. And I'm going to tell you that one of the reasons people don't want to have teams is because they don't like being accountable. So if I'm only accountable to myself, all I got to do is answer to myself. But the minute the 3 of us are together and I'm late and Sandra calls me out on it, that's not comfortable. I don't want to do with all that. So you got to ask yourself, how big is your game? You know, if you got big goals, I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but if you've got big goals in your life, financial goals, you're not going to do it by yourself. It's not feasible, possible. And plus it's not necessary. It's much more fun to be doing with people of like mind, like what we're doing here, you know? And so I would just, if somebody that doesn't want a team, I know there's a little voice issue behind it. And once we find it and pop it, I think that changes the game. But the rule, even if you do it alone, the rules are the same.
Yeah. There's another question here that's very relevant. What should a leader do in time of crisis like COVID-19?
Okay, well, there's I did a video on this, and I did a video on this. I'm trying to remember all the steps. The first step of this was, first thing in crisis hits, call your team together immediately. Bring them together immediately. Now, even if you don't know what to talk about, bring them together, because remember, the community creates strength and energy and security and stability. Even if nobody knows what to do yet, but we're together. Okay, we're all together. We're still alive. First thing, call your team together. Second thing is turn them into a learning unit. We talked about that. Start studying together. What's going on? Bring in information. Cross-pollinate resources. Put people in smaller groups to start solving problems and celebrating wins. Those are the first things that you do. And I think that the other part of it is to be a teacher and a leader. Teach as you're learning. What are the lessons that we're learning here? And like I said, circulate the wins. That's just the minimal. And I will say one other thing is, give your team training that not only helps them develop the skills for the mission, but also personal development skills like this. These are the things that need to be shared, because at the end of the day, you think about terms like depression, recession, are those economic terms, or are those little, psychological terms, emotional terms? And the truth is, it's both. The biggest depression, was it Franklin Roosevelt said the only fear we have is fear itself, right? Was that Roosevelt? I don't remember. Yep. But that's the issue right now. That's the issue. So that kind of training and helping people get through the little voice issues of overwhelm and depression and confusion are critical.
Yeah, a mentor of Jack Canfield, who's a name that comes up in the personal development field. I know you know him. His mentor was Carl Rogers, who was a psychotherapist. And Rogers once said, what I am is good enough if only I could be it openly. And there's so much wisdom in that, because if you don't want a team and you don't want to be that open, then you're going to be closed and you won't be able to scale whatever business that you have. And in time of crisis, who are you going to lean on? Who's going to throw the life preserver, right?
Yeah,
so
That's right. That's a great point. As a matter of fact, I do reading every morning, and I was reading Eckhart Tolle this morning, and basically he said that. He goes, if the shutters are closed, no light can get in.
Yeah.
No light can get in, which is what you're saying.
Well, final question. You hit one out of the park. I can't wait to see. I think I'd love to see over 2,000 people on that second webinar, because it's part 2. This is part 1. That's part 2. And so we have more questions there. But for now, what do you mean when you say, Blair, that what?
Leaders are teachers.
Now, I want to make clear. I know all leaders are teachers. I believe that. But are all teachers leaders? So how about question A and question B, if you would?
Okay, so question A, I think Michael Gerber, you guys know the legendary Michael Gerber wrote the E-Myth. Yeah. He said something, and in one of his recent books, he says, a business, you're learning lessons all day long. There's always lessons. Every mistake, every win is a lesson. And therefore, business is like a school. And now I say, if business is like a school, who's the teacher? Because otherwise those lessons go unnoticed and we make the same mistakes again. So as a leader, it's your job to teach. One of my colleagues, a fellow by the name of, started a company that we all know, DHL International, DHL. He's the founder. His name is Po Chung. He's from Hong Kong. He started the business years ago with 8 people and then sold it to Deutsche Post years later. But I had the fortune to work with him for several years. And he said this, he said, as a leader, particularly in business, he goes, it's a societal responsibility. A societal responsibility for leaders to teach what they've learned to their leaders, to the next generation. Otherwise, we never move ahead. So leaders must be teachers. Now, your second question, are teachers leaders? Okay, I'll defer to another great leader. I happen to be, a few months ago, I was in Bangkok, Thailand, and went to one of the largest Buddhist temples in the world, and had an amazing opportunity to have a private audience with the abbot monk who oversees the whole thing. And he wrote a book called, I don't know if I got it right here. Oh yeah, here it is. Training Trainers. He wrote a book called Training Trainers, which I thought was really interesting. And what he says about a trainer is it's 3 characteristics. So those of you who want to be trainers, number 1, your content's important. Obviously, is it relevant to people? Okay, is it relevant? Does it help them? But he says number 2 is not so much the content, it's the way you're teaching it that's critical. The context, right? The context, the way you're teaching. But it says what's even more important about that is the type of person that you are. It's because how do you show up? Because people are modeling you all the time. Are you a person of high ethical standard, of integrity, of honesty? Are you authentic? All these things are much bigger lessons that are being learned than just the content, which is, he says, the least important part, which I thought was amazing because that's what I've been teaching for years, right? But to hear him say that, because he says all of his monks, that's all they are. They're teachers. They teach meditation around the world and all that stuff. So yeah, you are a teacher by default. Now don't do it by default. Do it on purpose. It's a core skill, and it will create a legacy.
Well, to be continued, Blair. Thank you, and we'll see you in part B. And we have another session tomorrow night, another squad.
Yeah, same place, same time.
Yeah. So make sure you put in the calendar. Don't put it on a to-do list. Put in your calendar Blair's time and date for that webinar so it's there, and put 15 minutes before it begins and put 15 minutes after the end time that you see, because that way you can debrief and exhale. Now, we have one more evening in this Summit Squad, which is called the Leadership Squad, and it is the 5th of 10, so we'll officially be halfway after tomorrow, but we're not going to ruin it for you on who that speaker is. You know who tonight's trainer and speaker is. He is the trainer of trainers, and in fact, he teaches that course quite well, I must say. And he's had a lot of influence on a lot of people. So just show him some love and type into the chat your thanks to him and any big takeaways that you got, so we can see some additional things. And remember, please go to successresourcesvirtual.com/go. And then I'm going to give one more because we want feedback, because Blair wants to always know how to improve.
It's on Saturday, the 30th of May, part 2 with Blair, 9 p.m. Malaysia time. So make sure you register, secure your spot, show up on time, diarize it.
And I know over thousands, I'm hoping over 2,000 will say yes, because we've gotten up to 1,900. So I want to break the 2,000 person barrier. Because Blair is the only one who's ever used his iPad, and I thought that was very clever, like the whiteboard. You know, so we use our cards.
It just shows that an old dog can learn technology too.
I'm very impressed. I remember the old days. So here's the next place, and this is the final thing for the moderators, and that is successresourcesvirtual.com/feedback. Now, if you are one of the souls, very easy, SOULS, right? If you're one of the souls who give us feedback on all 3 speakers, now tomorrow night, there's another one. You already know who was the previous night. But if you do that feedback form for all 3, you get the most engaged player award. And I don't care if we have 10 of them, 100 of them, or 500 of them, you're going to get something very, very special. Yes. So go for it, because your feedback, if we can't measure it, we can't improve it. So give us your feedback once again.
It's your way of sharing gratitude. I can see a lot of people are like, wow, Blair, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So it's filling in the feedback form is your way of showing your gratitude to Blair and to Success Resources Virtual, who brings him to you in the comfort of your living room. So go ahead and fill in the feedback form.
Yes. And it's successresourcesvirtual.com/feedback. You know, so when we look to each other, we know that we're going to say that same word together. We got that down. Now, did we do it after the first one? No. The second? No. But after the 4th or the 5th, we started.
So our code of honor. We said these words together.
Yeah. And I learned this from Richard. Ready? Families that learn together succeed together. Now, they earn together as well.
And they grow together.
And they lead together. Okay?
Absolutely.
But bottom line is success is all a part of that. That's why we call it Success Resources. So Blair, you got the final word. One word. How would you declare this final piece in the training for part A?
Well, if it's one word, my word is gratitude. And the word is thank you, the 2 of you. You are amazing hosts. You create a context that is so open and so wonderful for not only the speakers, but for the learners too. You guys are masters. So thank you for that. And I'm grateful for Success Resources and everybody sitting there. If you got one nugget out of this whole thing, just share it with somebody.
One word. I see it. Boom.
Yeah.
One word. What's your word?
So, my word is rules. Rules create that safe container. I know it with my kids. I know it with myself. If you just know that ABC, what to do, it allows you to feel safe, and it takes a lot of the thinking and the uncertainty away. So thank you, Blair.
And my word is experience, not the noun, but the verb, because experience, I have teenagers, is not the best teacher. Experience is the only teacher. And I know that to be true. And our parents know that to be true, no matter what. So we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us. Onward and upward. Blair, thanks again on behalf of Success Resources. And
Sandra Bravo.
I'm Alex Mondosian, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.